Here we're going to tie a variation to the EP crab. First thing we're going to do is just start our thread. We're going to tie a nice big pair of brass eyes or lead eyes right at the front of the hook here. I'm just going to figure 8 the wraps around those eyes. Do that a couple of times, making sure they're tight. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to take our thread all the way back to where the bend basically starts. I'm going to take a few pieces of some mini grizzly marabou. I'm going to twist them all together so I get a nice little clump of them. I'm going to tie in a tail that's about the length of the straight portion of the shank of the hook. I'm going to tie that in right there at the back. And I'm going to take my thread forward, trying to keep all this marabou on top of the shank of the hook. Once I get to the eyes, I can trim out all that marabou. And we can clean it all up. And I'm going to take my thread forward once more. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in the legs. The legs and the body material. I'm going to tie a crab here that's going to be tan and brown with tan legs. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a tan segment of EP fibers. Just the plain EP fibers. And I'm going to take out a chunk here. It's about half of the diameter of a pencil or so. This will be for each segment of our body. I'm going to tie them in about 3-4 inch segments. So the first one here, I'm just going to tie it in by placing an X on the top of the segment. And I'll lock it down. And what we're going to do is we're going to alternate tan and brown colors. So I'll take another chunk of the same fibers but in brown here. And I trim them to about the same length. Now for each segment that I do in alternating colors, I'm going to tie in a pair of legs. Now I'm just going to use some brown loco legs, and I'm going to take one whole leg. I'm going to tie it right in front of those segments. And I tie that leg right in the middle. There we go. And then I'll do my next segment. Do another tan one here. And I'm going to try to get this segment as close to those legs as I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my little X-wrap here. Then I'm going to loosen up on it just a little bit and pull that segment back towards those legs, and then I can bite down on it. That way you get a nice dense body. These segments as close together as possible. And I do the same thing with my next segment. And ready for another set of legs. There we go. And I'll take another piece of tan here. Oopsie. pull that up into place. It slid forward here a little bit on me. Then we'll do our next one here, which is another brown segment. Then we'll do the last set of legs right in front of that. Then we're going to take our thread, we're going to jump it right up to the eye of the hook. Most of these crabs come with a weed guard, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this weed guard. I'm going to lash the mono to one side of the hook, trying to get that natural curve to face backwards. I'm just going to simply pull it to the side and lash the other side down, trying to dodge my legs. Once I've got those tied in, you can see they're kind of facing forward a little bit. I'm going to force them back. I'm going to put a thread dam or thread wedge right in front of them. Slightly wrap back up onto them. That'll force them backwards. Then you can whip finish. You can trim those weed guards so that they're just a hair longer than the tip of the hook. Now we're ready to trim the legs and the body. So the first thing I'm going to trim will be the body. So I just take all that EP fiber, draw it upwards. I'm going to trim it at an angle with basically the shallow angle at the front, so that the body will be longer in the back. So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to angle it up, trim it all at once, and pull it all back down. There's always going to be a few strays. You can just trim those strays out of there. Now you can trim the legs. I like the legs to be nice and long. I like the legs to stick out about an inch past the body, so you can just kind of roughly measure out where you want them. Then pull them both down, trim the legs, then you can pull them back up. There's always some strays that pop up here. Then to finish the fly, you can glue the underside. I usually just take a little bit of brush on Zap-A-Gap glue here. I apply a fairly generous amount to the underside, cover all those wraps, get all around that weed guard under the eyes, put some on top on the eyes. That'll keep that fly from falling apart. This is definitely not one of those flies you want to have fall apart in the middle of fishing it. They take a fair amount of time to tie, so zoom out here so you can get a better look at it. That's all there is to a mini little EP crab. It can be tied a lot of different ways and a lot of different colors. This is just kind of a simple variation of it. It's good on permit, bonefish, redfish, basically anything that'll eat a crab, surfs the flats. That's all there is to it.